Hello everyone and welcome to the most quest-packed podcast in the world, House of Games. Today I'm joined by my fellow quest giver, Otto, as we prepare to enter the House of Games in search of a guest for our next podcast episode. But before we venture into these haunted corridors of the House of Games, let's check our inventories, stack our potions, and now we're ready to embark on this week's episode of House of Games.
Welcome everyone to this week's episode of House of Games, and today we have a special theme that we're going to discuss, which is quests. But I think, first of all, Rune, what is a quest?
Oh, thanks for hanging me out like that. I was not prepared at all. Well, I don't know. A quest in a video game. There are different types of quests. What is it? Oh, okay, well...
Let's hear it.
I don't know, like, you're just being asked to do something and you do it. But, you have main quests and side quests. And I thought that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to throw it back to you. What do you have on mind?
Well, I guess first for definitions, I guess a quest is, as you said, something where the player is tasked with doing something. Like it's sort of a challenge or something to complete to progress in the game, for example. And as you said, there are different categories. So you have the main quest, which is usually, when you do the main quest, the game is over, basically. Or the main story is completed or concluded, and it's usually the longest quest of all. And then you have the side quests, which are, I guess, you could call it like filler gameplay, basically, where it doesn't matter if you do them or not, you will still be able to complete the main quest. But usually they either help by just entertaining you or making you level up or something like that to help you with the main quest. Yes. I suppose. And do you have a favorite quest, by the way, or a favorite main quest?
Yeah,
for example.
I do have a couple of opinions on that, on both the games that I like that does it right and some that does it wrong. But we can start with the good ones. And I mentioned this so many times in this podcast, but the Elder Scrolls games are my favorite side quests. I have never paid attention to the main quest in those games. I don't even know if I played them, to be honest. But I did platinum one of the... it must have been Skyrim. Did I platinum it? Anyway... I do love the side quests, especially the Assassin Guild ones in, for example, Oblivion, Skyrim, Morrowind. Did they have assassins in Morrowind? There's one in particular.
The Dark Brotherhood, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, the Dark Brotherhood, yeah. And there's one in particular that is still sort of stuck on my mind, and that's from Skyrim, when you sneak into some rich guy's house up into the attic. And there's like a secret little door, and you go in there and you untie a bull head or a moose head that is hanging on the wall. And you know that around 8 o'clock he's sitting underneath that one. So you untie it and it will fall down and kill him. And then it looks like an accident. And I think that was so cool when I did that. And I felt like the Dark Brotherhood's side stories in all of these games felt like they were more... They had more unique things to them. Things that, for example, untying that rope. And if memory serves, I believe there was even an animation for the rope being untied. And I don't think I saw that anywhere else in the game. And those are the nice details I love. And I try to put a lot of them in Sunset Moon. These things that most people will miss. But if you do pay attention to them, you will get it, that reward for actually paying attention to it or going to a certain place in a certain time and so on. I love those things in video games when they pay so much attention to things that most people won't even see. But so to answer that question, those are some of my favorite ones, the Dark Brotherhood ones, and those I bother sort of reading everything and listening to all the dialogues while playing, for example, the mage guilds or the fighters guilds. And this is back when I was a trophy horse. I would just press through all those dialogues because I didn't really care. but the Dark Brotherhood I always cared about. So those are amazing, and especially because they add those tiny details that I didn't see anywhere else in the game, and that just that speaks to me. Another game that I really enjoyed the side quests in are God of War, the reboot one. So not Ragnarok, but the fourth one, whatever you want to call it, for PlayStation 4. And what I really loved about the side quests in that game is that they're all sort of connected to the main story in a nice and really nice way. So if you haven't played them, the first thing you do is sort of the mother's ashes. You're gonna bring them to the mountain. That's basically the main story of the game, to bring the ashes to some mountain. And in one of the side quests, your son, I don't quite remember the details, but something about, well, I know that if we do this and this, we can bring mom back to life or something like that. And Kratos like, no, this is bullshit, boy. Whatever, we do it. So you obviously you playing as Kratos, so you end up doing it for your son, I suppose. And then it doesn't lead to anything, but it's still tied into the main story because it's about your mom and the ashes. And then Kratos says something like, I told you it was a waste of time. But while you did that side quest, Kratos and his son sort of connected a little bit, and it had still something to do with the main story. And those, all of them in God of War was really good in terms of being side quests, yet they are tied to the main story. And I think that was really smart. And I haven't really seen that in any other games that I've played. So I hope that's... I assume that's the case in the second game, Ragnarok. But I hope more games do that moving forward. Because, well, we will talk about things we don't like in side quests later, and I'll come back to this. But those are some great side quests, in my opinion. Do you have any examples of side quests you enjoy and why you enjoy them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can add to that, which you mentioned about the Elder Scrolls and the Dark Brotherhood. There was actually one quest which is, I think it was in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. So the quest is that it's basically like a reverse Agatha Christie. I don't know how you pronounce it in English, but Agatha Christie anyhow. Like one of those novels where you have maybe, I think it's maybe something like 5 or 6 guests, and then your task is to kill all of them, and then nobody can be aware of who is the killer, like, at all. So you have to kill all of them, nobody know who it is, and then at the end it's only 2 of you left, and then you just it's a really, really exciting quest. And I think the condition about nobody should know who the killer is only a bonus requirement, so you can just go chopping everyone down from the first second and then still technically complete it. So that's also something that I like, that it takes a lot of thinking and effort to sort of talk to everyone and figure out how you are going to isolate them from each other. So you want to get them when they're alone, so nobody else sees it happen. So it could have been anyone. And but still it gives you the option to just chop everyone down the first second you step into the house. So I like those things where there are multiple ways to solve the issue.
I've got to say,
quest, I guess.
I don't remember that one. I must have played it because I played all of these Elder Scrolls games. But I think now that you say it, that maybe on an unconscious level I do remember it, because in Sunset Moon on Halloween, in my documents I made an idea that you celebrate Halloween in the police house, and my idea was to have like a panic room situation where one of the guests pretend to be dead and you figure out who it is. Now this is a peaceful game, so you well, technically speaking, you can actually go and beat everyone up, but it's more like a game for the people on the island. And now that you said that, I'm thinking maybe that's where I got it from. But to be honest, I do get the whole panic room thing and the thing you explained there. They're not the same things, but I get them a bit confused mixed up. But that was anyway the idea I have for the Halloween event in my game. That you go to the police station, and as I mentioned in some previous episode, it's inspired by the Biohazard 2 police station. So I thought that would be a fitting place to have a Halloween event. And then I was also thinking to turn it into the sort of panic room where you have to solve who killed this police officer. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And now I think that's probably where I got that idea from, because now when you said it does totally. There's something that I feel like I remember it, yet I don't. But that's how it goes. We keep getting inspired and borrow from things all the time. But that's cool. That sounds awesome. I really want to go back and play it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really, really great quest. Highly recommend it. So in Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Another game that also sort of reminds me of that same sort of thinking about making quests, which is, I would say, the best game for quests that I have experienced ever, which is The Witcher 3. Have you played it?
Yes, but I got stuck playing the Gwent game, and I never...
Oh, right, yes.
I made it to like the second main city or whatever. It was a fat guy, and I think he had a whole DLC pack about the Red Wedding or something. Man, it's so long time ago this game came out. But basically, it was I remember that the city was a moat around it, and I think it was a fat king who lived there. But that's how far I made it, and then I got completely consumed by the Gwent game, and I never played it again.
Right. Yeah, so that's the sort of tutorial area, I suppose.
Okay.
But that game, at least, if you skip the Gwent stuff, it has sort of a system where you imagine that the quest system is going to be a lot... So for those who don't know, The Witcher is basically a game about Witchers in this universe is people who are basically bounty hunters for monsters. So what they do is that they like hunt monsters, and then they get rewarded for taking care of a monster, like a werewolf or a vampire or whatever it might be. And you imagine that before playing it, that a lot of the monsters would be, or the quest would be something like go and kill 3 werewolves and then come back and get 100 gold or something like that. And it's also... because there are a lot of quests that look like that, but like they're set up like that. Like, here is the task, you have to kill a vampire, and you imagine that it's just gonna be that. But like almost every time, there's just something that's not right, and it just leads you into this amazing branch of some crazy goose chase. Like, you're about to kill the vampire or something, and then it turns out the vampire is actually good or something, or it wasn't a vampire, it was this like bigger beast, or it was something else, and then it turns into, like, in the end you have to save this guy's daughter, or you have to sacrifice whatever.
Wow.
And that's like for every side quest, there's just something, like, it's written so well that it might have been like a main quest quest in any other game, I would say.
That sounds awesome. And it's what it also makes me think about one of the things that I tried I've tried in the Red Colony games, and even in Sunset Moon, is this the idea that it's life, you know? Life is unpredictable. Yeah. Anything can happen. And I try to tell that sort of stories in the Red Colony games, but, you know, they're very short and simple games in many ways, but you just die in one of them, and that's it. And then the message there is just like, it's life, you know? It's not always a happy ending. Yeah. And I really love that kind of stuff. And that's why I also love the Ghibli studio, the Japanese anime studio. Like, their moves are so weird, and then they just end. And it's like, well, what happened? And then, you know, that's it. Yeah. Like, it doesn't explain everything. And I absolutely love that stuff. And I also feel that in a lot of indie movies, and especially European movies as well. I think that's really neat. And there's, that sounds really cool in the Witcher. I wish I kept playing the game, but like I said, I ended up just playing the card game, and then I believe I bought the card game on because they released it later on tablet or smartphones, and I played it
Yeah,
there.
like a separate game for it.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that kind of stuff where it's very unpredictable where it takes you, and that feels real somehow. You know, it's real because that's basically how real life works. You can't always plan everything out, and nothing ever goes how you thought it would. So
exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, and also like the whole game is built like every monster has like a certain number of weaknesses, and or you have to make like potions, or you have to use this specific magic, or you have to do this thing before you can even see it even. So it has a lot of those things where it has different ways to solve the same thing and so on. So it's really, really good. And I did, now that I think about it, I did sort of the reverse thing from you. Like when I played it for the first time, I said like, oh, card game, I fucking hate this. And then I just skipped it. And then further along the story, there was some quest where you had to play and win some card game to progress in the story, I think. And then I didn't know any of the rules because I skipped the tutorial for the card games. And I didn't understand it at all. So I just gave up, and then it took a while before I picked it up again and started playing it, and then did like the whole experience.
That reminds me of Final Fantasy X. When I played that game for the first time, I couldn't care less about the Blitzball system because I was so bummed out that they didn't continue with the card games they had in Final Fantasy 8 and 9, which are my favorites card games in any game because they're not super complicated and they're not too easy. And these are the cards games that I will try to copy into my own game because I have a script started on it, but it's not done yet. But I want to have that sort of card game mechanics so you can play with other NPCs. Anyway, the Blitzball game in Final Fantasy X was something that you had to play later on in the story, if memory serves. I can't quite remember if you had to win or not. I feel like you did have to win. But I remember the first time being really frustrated because I didn't bother playing Blitzball at all. But then Final Fantasy X came to the PlayStation Vita, and I tried to platinum the game. I have one trophy left, I believe, and that's like filling out all the level up branches. So that's just like constant grinding. So I gave up. So I had all the trophies in a Final Fantasy game, which is insane because they're quite intense. But the Blitzball game, I did play that on the PlayStation Vita. And that's when I realized it's very much like the card game in terms of it's just like about the numbers. Like this number is stronger than that, and so that sort of strategy, which I really enjoy. But so did you end up learning Gwent and pass that side quest, or did you give up?
Yes. So I actually, when I did try it again, I started from the beginning because I thought I probably should do this like from the beginning and then do like the easy matches and stuff in the beginning, so I learn when like I really need it. So yeah, that's what I did. But I did play the game on the hardest mode when I did that like from the beginning, which was also quite a challenge. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. Now actually the reason that I stopped playing is that I'm stuck on some Gwent game where I played through the main story and one of the DLCs, but then there's the second DLC that is like, I think one of the things is that you can win this unique sword or something if you win this Gwent game, but you lose some stuff if you don't win the game, but it's optional. But I'm like stuck at this game and I don't want to lose, so I just it faded out into nothing, unfortunately. But yeah,
that's
so it's Gwent.
Yeah, I've got to say,
Gwent is the roadblock.
Yeah, I got quite excited now to play it again. I believe there's a remake coming because they're gonna make Witcher 4, if memory serves, and I believe they're gonna do a remake. But I'm thinking if I should download this and play it on this Steam Deck. Oh, actually, I do already have it on my Steam Deck. I just haven't played it. Now I got excited again to play The Witcher.
Nice.
For the side story stuff that you mentioned. That sounds really cool. And I also want to play that Oblivion quest, or at least I'm going to look up on the internet how they did it, because I might want some inspiration for my own game in there. That being said,
yeah.
I want to bring up some bad side quests. I don't know, like in terms of main quests, I guess we can leave that to the final part of this episode. But in terms of bad side quest design, in my opinion, is contrary to God of War. You have around that time I also played Spider-Man on the PS4, and Infamous is another great example of awful side quests. And that's basically just these. So in Spider-Man, you swing around the city, and then, which it was cool the first 2-3 times maybe, where it's like a car chase going on somewhere, and then you see it over there, and then you go there, and then you beat up the bad guys, and then there you go. And then another one, you had to help your the Green Goblin's son, I believe. He had some environmental, eco-friendly thing to check the air in New York City. So you had to play some stuff or break some stuff. I can't remember which one. And that was, fun for the first time. And then you just keep doing it over and over and over again. And then I also believe that they had similar quests, but you did something else. So instead of like setting up these things for the environment, you maybe went around and broke some telecommunication things from the bad guys or something like that. So it's basically just the same quest in a different suit. And I hate those quests. I think it's lazy from the developer side or whatever, and it's just boring. And this is something I personally really try to avoid in Sunset Moon when I write my side quests. I hope that every quest will feel unique and different. So you're always on, I hope the player will feel sort of surprised all the time. Like, oh, I've never done this before. Now you have to do this and that. But of course, the problem doing that when you try to make everything different is that it's almost like the tutorial episode we talked about introducing things in the game all the time. It feels like that can be frustrating. But if you can balance that in a good way to make things new and unique, yet it uses the same sort of mechanics as before, that's the best balance, in my opinion. But Spider-Man and Infamous are some other games that have awful side quests, and I really look forward to play Spider-Man Miles Morales or whatever his name was, and the second one. I haven't really heard people complaining about the side quests. I think they sort of sorted it out a little bit at least. But yeah, that being said, those are my absolute least favorite side quests, when it's basically the same stuff over and over again, but in different, facade, or when they just do the same things over and over again. And when there's no reward doing them. Now, in Spider-Man, it was fun to, especially when you found the backpacks around New York City and you could open them and there were some sort of Easter eggs from the comics and all that stuff. Now, I didn't grow up watching Marvel or any of that, so for me, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I know that a lot of Marvel and Spider-Man fans thought it was really cool and fun to get those Easter eggs. So that's a way to reward at least the player of doing the side quests. But let's see. Yeah, that was some of my examples of bad side quests. So do you have any takes on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I absolutely agree. When it's like either you have the I haven't played World of Warcraft, but I understand that a lot of quests are like, go and do X number of, kill 4 wolves or something. And it's like there's an infinite number there. So it's just, it doesn't really affect whatever the NPC, there's no story around it. It's just like throw the dice of do X number of times. And that's it. Or as you say, it's like go here and press the action button and then go to the next and press action button until. And I think, fetch quests and like escort missions are similar, I think, where it's just, there's no story to it. There's no drama. There's, it's sort of from the get-go, exactly what's going to happen, like until the end. And what you want is a little bit of surprise and story to, contrast that with another good example is RuneScape, which is also a really good quest system, I think, because all of those quests are really like quests in the true sense that there's a written story and you go on this adventure, and then usually, except for the like tutorial quests, there are some twists and turns and you don't really know what's gonna happen, and you only get like a chunk of the solution at the time. So the next step in this is just, the end goal is, for example, save this guy from prison, but you don't know like how do you do that. If you go there, then you can't open the cage, for example, and then you like have to talk to people and sort of figure out. And of course people have written quest guides and stuff to solve it, but there's still the option to really try to figure it out yourself, which I really, really like.
Man, I'm curious to see when you play Sunset Moon, because I'm obviously very inspired by Morrowind and all those games, but because of the type of game it is, it's I don't want to call it fetch quests, but it's sort of baked in a lot of the side quests. Let's say there are some kids on the island and they will ask you to play hide and seek with them. So that hide and seek function itself, that's a whole script just for that. It's still not working 100%, but once it works, that's one of those things I'm talking about where you can play the entire game without doing that at all. The chances are that you will play hide and seek with these kids, which is I'm starting with a lot of the Japanese games, role-playing games. They always have some bullshit hide and seek game in them. I'm thinking at least about Breath of Fire 3, one of my favorite games of all time. But anyway, you do that, and then they will ask you, like, do you want to join our club? And then and it's a very cocky little shit kid. As I said before we started recording, I'm very much inspired by where I grew up in the Swedish outback, and kids, myself included, tend to be quite dicky. But anyway, so then they will ask you, well, if you want to join our club, you have to help us build our clubhouse. So now all of a sudden it's basically a fetch quest, because you have to get the planks. But how do you get the planks? Now we're sort of in a Minecraft territory. In Minecraft, in order to get these things, you have to gather these things first, and then you have to make the planks out of those things. And then once you have all the resources, you give that to the kid, and we start building the clubhouse, and eventually that's the clubhouse is done, and now you're a part of these kids' little gang. So I wouldn't necessarily I suppose that's kind of like a fetch quest thingy. I do agree with you with the World of Warcraft. There's just like, they're very samey all the time. And I think those kind of quests really suck as well, which is interesting now that I make a game that basically have fetch quests, but I like to think that at least they are sort of hidden behind story elements, if that makes sense. So I'm very curious to see what you think about that once it's time to play the demo, if you are interested. But
yes, absolutely, I would love it.
That's a good example of bad quests, fetch quests. But I was thinking when you said it about World of Warcraft, what I was thinking about is just that World of Warcraft to me is almost like it's a way to hang out with your friends. So I wonder how much that plays into it, because those quests are really fucking bored. I was supposed to stop swearing this year, I said. Those quests were really boring, but you're usually playing with your mates. So I feel like it's just something you do while you sit and talk. But I don't know. I never played them. I only played World of Warcraft like a 10-day trial, and my brother and I, we played on one of those RPG servers where you had to behave like as if you lived in the world, which we thought was super fun. But that's all the exposure I had to World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I guess I can't really talk as if I know what I'm talking about either. I've seen gameplay of it. I've seen friends play it, but I haven't really sat down and played it myself. But it seems like a lot of it is just very like number heavy. Like there's, to level up stuff, just do this X amount of times, and then you know, to do this quest, kill X number of whatever, and then that's it. You know, that's the feeling I get at least. But please correct me if you have played it and think it's the shit.
Well, from what I played, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But another thing, I believe I mentioned this, my sort of take on conspiracy theory about we're living in a matrix and everything is a game. A part of me now, when you said that, it's so number heavy, yet so many people love it. A part of me then thinks like, yeah, that's because we are robots and we just want these sort of mundane sort of numbers and things should just make sense in a certain way, and then we get hooked and we keep doing it. But yeah, do you have any?
Yeah, I think there's something to that, because I think quests are sort of like a mini video game in the game, that they serve the same function as why you like to play games. Because I think in contrast to real life, they have sort of a defined goal, and you always progress, and you can't like do half a quest and then you fail, so then you have to do it again. But rather you sort of progress through it, and then eventually you get some sort of reward for completing it. And I think if it's very number heavy as World of Warcraft is, I think it also serves the purpose where you can say that, okay, well, this week I leveled this much, or I did that quest, or whatever, and then you can feel a sense of accomplishment that's very easy to achieve with numbers, but very hard with life, which is on the other end of the spectrum, I suppose.
Yeah, it's now I can't stop thinking about all the similarities between, for example, algorithms and all that. Like when you all the algorithms, in the end of the day, that's all numbers and finding patterns, and then you get hooked, and then you sit on whatever app you use for it, hours and hours and hours, and you can't stop doing it. It's everything just goes back to numbers, the sort of language of the universe, and we sort of keep falling into that all the time. Interesting. I just wonder why that is.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Got deep this episode.
There must be something to it, man. I just feel like I see it everywhere. Like, especially since I started programming, man. I can't get out of that mindset that everything is just numbers, and everything, and the more numbers and the more, you know, when you make games, things should be dividable by 4 if you have used sprites and stuff like that to make the CPU power work less. If you use a spreadsheet, for example, you can look in, for example, the unit editor. It will say something about 32 bits or 64 bits or 128 bits, 254 bits. So everything is just like double. And all of these numbers are dividable by 4. And you can see, for example, if you drag in like a random sprite that is not dividable by 4, when I made Knife Boy for the first time, I didn't know this rule. And it was just like, it was insane how shit the game ran. And then I sort of re-imported all the sprites to the game and made them dividable by 4, and it ran much smoother. Everything is worked much better, and crisper graphics and everything, even though all the settings were the same, if memory serves. But anyway, there was something, just with numbers. I forgot my train of thought there, but when things make sense, it's like we just want to do that. When I worked as a plumber, they always said that the water always finds the easiest way, or something like that, when you do pipes up the walls and all that stuff. So you always have to think about like not making a pipe go up and then it comes down, back up, whatever, to make it flow out the right way. So it always finds the easiest way. I feel like in some way, I wonder if we humans are hardwired to always find the easiest way, and that's through numbers, but, you know, on an unconscious level where we don't really see it or feel it or think about it. Just like water is just like finding the easiest way. That's a weird thought coming from World of Warcraft, but whatever.
Yeah, interesting. But tell me, how do you think about quests when you make them? So, like, what is the process from, like, having an idea, like, I want a quest like this, to actually, I guess, writing it and then implementing it?
Well, in Sunset Moon, the quest, like, I know there will be about 40 NPCs in the game. I have about 16 in it now. And the reason why I know it's going to be around 40 is because I have X amount of houses in the game, and it needs to be at least one residence per house and some couples and so on. So I know it's going to be around 40, but I haven't written all the stories yet because I feel like the best stories comes when you don't think about it. And like I said before, a lot of the stories I've written so far is sort of based on the Swedish countryside where I grew up, and not necessarily the Swedish countryside. I also have one that is fairly inspired by a outback family in Australia. When I was backpacking there, I stayed with I was with an Italian guy at the time, driving through from Sydney to Darwin. And then we ended up in this little bogan village in the middle of nowhere. And then we got invited to stay over at these Australian people's homes. And then their son, who was about our age, came over with his friends, and they got all shit-faced, really drunk. We got really drunk as well. We all got drunk. And then that's one of those moments when I realized, like, man, countryside people are the same no matter where you go in the world. Like, there was just so much fun. And just like the way they are is just different from city people. And I thought it was so nice to see that on the other side of the planet. And I also really felt that in Chile when I was backpacking there. I bought like a case for my phone, and then there was a woman who was standing there because I tried to communicate with my shit Spanish to the staff. I was asking if they could help me put it on or something, because whatever. And then this lady was standing there, and she started talking to me in English, and she said, I live in the southern part, so if your backpack trips goes there, contact me and come over. So I did that, and then
cool.
It's happened so many times. And then she lived in the north working there, but she was going back once in a while to her friends in the south. So we stayed with their friends, 2 super cute daughters. The dad was a handyman. The mother was like a hairdresser working from home. And then I also saw this sort of countryside culture in Chile, which is really far away from Sweden, obviously. And it was also one of those moments like, man, here's a store. There's something here. This beautiful, what do you call it? Not hostile, the opposite of hostile. Hospitality? Hospital family inviting this random foreigner to stay with them. And we went to some hot, cold waters up in the mountains. And I was there for about 3 days. It was just so wonderful and beautiful. And this family gave me such an impression that I wanted to sort of bring that family into my game as well. So that's how I write most of my stories. It's basically based on some true events that I experienced myself. And then these stories usually just come out of nowhere when I'm at the gym working out in the morning. I try to brainstorm ideas for the game and so on. So that's sort of how the stories themselves pop into my mind. And then I, of course, because it's a game and like I said in so many episodes before, I want to have this sort of Black Mirror twist to the story. So even though they're based on sort of true events that I experienced myself in my childhood or while traveling, there is still like that dark sort of Black Mirror twist to the story itself, which makes it, which I like to implement in my stories, because I really want the player to be on his toes all the time. And hopefully if I've done it right, or if you as a player play the certain side stories in a certain way, you would maybe think that you know how I'm writing my stuff, and you would be like, I bet he's gonna die now. And then that doesn't happen. So that's also something I try to keep in mind, to not always have this fucked up twist in the end of a side story. But sometimes it is there to shock the player, and then hopefully when the player thinks that he knows how I'm doing my stuff, it will not happen, and so on. So one of the rules I have, at least in this game when I try to write my stories, is that I want to shock the player in unexpected ways. Do you have any...
Cool.
Do you write stories in any of your games, or?
I have thoughts about it, but I haven't written much down. I have this one game that I want to create after the ones I'm working on now. So for that I have some outline of a story, but I'm just keeping it. I have like a notebook. I've saved some details of like the lore around that game, but it's nothing concrete. So do you write your stories down, or do you just keep them in your head until you actually implemented them, or how do you do it?
Well, because most of them pop into my mind while I'm at the gym. I pick up my phone and then I use the voice recording thing, and then I just talk into my phone. And I usually just do like a quick sort of a story about blah, blah, blah. And then the end of the story, I try to put in there. It's similar to how I talked about how I like to make my games, or how I want to make games in the future, where I'm sort of in charge of the start, the middle, and the finish. And then all the things in between, it's sort of up to the team to fill in, and we go back and forth a little bit. But I like to have that sort of what do you call a skeleton framework to work by. So when I write these stories, I make sure I have the start, the finish, the middle part there. And then, so that's what I do on the phone while I'm at the gym, because I'm working out, man. I'm not going to sit and type this stuff down. I'm there to pump. And then when I get home, I will listen to what I wrote or what I said in the phone. And then I will type that down on the computer and then add a little bit more of ideas. And then I put that into a document. And later on, usually I write the stories when we go to my wife's place in the mountains. So it's like an hour and a half by train. And what I also like to do is, even though it's in the morning, I drink a little bit of a highball. So I get that slight drunkenness feeling, which is pretty neat.
The ball.
Yes, curve. And then I like to sit there and just type on the train. Like all the Red Colony games have been written on the train back and forth. And that's before I met that's basically when whatever. That's where I write my games, basically, on the trains, which is weird. And also now that we live sort of outside Tokyo, if I have an audition or something in Tokyo, I tend to go quite early, and then I will go to a cafe and sit and write for an hour or two, and then I go to the audition, and then I go back. And also on the train back, I sit and write. So that's sort of when I write my stories. Because when I'm at home, in front of my computer, I really just want to work on the game. So I try to make the story stuff when I'm out and about doing other things. And the easiest way for me to write story is for that. It's also easier to write my stories when I'm out and about, because I have no distractions. There's no internet. There's no... of course, you can connect always everywhere, but I just don't. But there's no distractions. I also like to listen to music while I write my stories. If that answers your question.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to hear about somebody who actually has a process like that. You know, I'm far away from doing actual quests in my game. It's very interesting, I think.
And one more detail I do, for example, some of my stories are based on relationships, so romance and so on. So I have like a a Spotify playlist with sort of erotic music. So I like to listen to that. So it's this sort of, what you would imagine in an erotic setting. And then I really like to listen to that kind of stuff. And then I write the story. And it really sets the mood. So I have this voices.
Cool. We should share that erotic playlist in the description so people can get into the mood.
Yes, indeed.
Perhaps.
And then another one is where the detective's storyline. It's a noir detective soundtrack as well. I like to listen to when I did that part. But the detective's story is done, so I won't have to listen to that again.
Nice. Well, interesting. Something I also like when quests do is when they incorporate sort of, it's not just the, go here and press action key to, whatever it is, or just go here, talk to this guy, and then, bounce around the NPCs, and then eventually you're finished. But that they incorporate some of the game systems themselves. And RuneScape, again, is a very good candidate or a very good example of this, in my mind, because the way that they do it is that you have these skills, for example. So it's a MMORPG. So you have these skills, which is everything from like farming skill to fishing to combat skills to construction to crafting, smithing, mining, whatever it is. They have like loads of skills. I think it's 20 something or maybe 30. And then usually they incorporate that into every quest. So every quest has skill requirements to be able to do it. So for example, to do this quest, you have to build a share for this character because this situation requires it, or you have to get through this rock or something, and then you have to have this high mining skill, for example. You have to wield this thing.
That sounds very much like what I'm doing. And also Stardew Valley to be RuneScape. Is it that kind of farming game? Why have I never?
No, it's an MMORPG, so it's a really old game, I suppose. So
I see.
And this refers to old school RuneScape, which is like kept it 2007 graphics rather than the RuneScape 3, which is modern graphics and, in my opinion, shit gameplay. So it's, I think it does it really well, that it really, really incorporates skills and like the mechanics of the game. So it sort of teaches you all about the game and how it works when you do the quest. And sometimes you have to do quests to be able to progress in a skill, or sometimes you have to, like for one skill, you have to do a quest to unlock that skill. So you sort of, that quest is the tutorial for the skill. And, you know, there's a lot of those things. So that's better when, you know, there's some like deeper thought. You have to just sort of understand how the game works rather than just go here and press F or something.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of these farming sims are in a sense like that. Like even in Stardew Valley, someone might say, help me get a fish. Like the side quest in Stardew Valley and even the whole main story, I wouldn't say that's the strong point of that particular game. So it's unfair to say that it's shit, because I really don't think that is the intent of the game at all. It's to make a farm and just... that's it. And also have some relationships with people in the village. But one side quest might be like, help me get this fish. So I never necessarily did the side quest, but I'm pretty sure that you can't fetch that particular fish unless your fishing skills are at fishing skill level 2, for example. Then you can catch that fish. Or I know for a fact that you can also upgrade your farming skills. So someone might ask for, it's just like a billboard in the village, like, please give me a potato. And there's like a star next to it, which means this is a high quality potato. But in order to get a high quality potato, you need to have farming skills level 2. So the process is the same. You just plant the seeds as you always do. But when your farming skills are better, there's a chance to get a better potato. And then there you have it. I think those side quests they are, like I said before, even with Sunset Moon, it is kind of like fetch quests in a sense, but it's sort of like hidden behind all the mechanics. It doesn't feel like a fetch quest because it feels like you're always progressing towards something. And that sort of sounds like what you're doing in RuneScape. And yeah, like I said about the treehouse in Sunset Moon, in order to build a treehouse, you have to do all these other things to get there. And I like those side quests myself when it's... one thing I also like with these side quests is that it's kind of like you can sort of put them on the side, and then... Because if you don't have the skills in the moment, you can keep playing the game the way you would in, for example, Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon or whatever. And then once you have reached your skill points are met, you can sort of go back and do that quest. I know a lot of people, like OCD people like myself, who like to sort of tick everything off straight away. It can be frustrating, but because of these types of games, especially Harvest Moon, Sunset Moon, Stardew Valley, it's just the whole game takes place in one small place. So for me, it doesn't bother me. It would, however, if I know that I have to come back all the way here to finish a side quest later on because I don't have the skills right now. that I think would bother me from an OCD point of view. But this way of making side quests where you're constantly progressing towards something, and yet you can do other things at the same time, I think that's pretty neat, I guess.
Yeah. And I think also something that I came to think about when you said a small place is, so the main quest, I think also to critique that a little bit is to define what makes a good main quest in my mind is usually, I think it's sort of been overdone, this whole trope about saving the world. So it feels like in that instance, there's so many games which can be great. I mean, the Elder Scrolls games, when I play, the main quests are great. But usually the quest is save the world, and then at the end you get like a girl or something, and you know you're gonna succeed as long as you just do the whole thing. But I really like those stories where it's not save the world, but rather it's save your world. Like in the sense that you as the character have this small life, your world, and then something happens along those lines, and then, you know, at the end of it, like in the grand scheme of things, nothing has changed with the world, but like so much has changed with the character, for example, and what they've experienced. So that's also something that I like when games dare to do, that they, you know.
Yeah, totally. I'm trying to think. I suppose The Last of Us 1 is sort of putting that whole save the world upside down, which is that Last of Us 1. Man, it was awesome. It was really awesome. And I wonder if that has something to do with it. That is, just did this completely unexpected thing. Same thing goes with I think a lot of the success from Game of Thrones was the fact that main characters dies, and I think that's until was it HBO, until they wrote the last season, and then they just sort of screwed it up and made it as you would expect any Hollywood writer to make a movie where the good guy wins and all that stuff. But leading up to that was amazing. Like it was like almost like you didn't want to watch it because you one of your favorites might die. So
yeah, exactly.
I think that's really cool, and also why I love the Black Mirror stuff. I think they're just sort of random how they ends, and very. Now it's been a couple of years since I saw them, but I felt like they were really difficult to predict what was going to happen and so on. Love that kind of stuff. So I agree.
So what's your opinion, by the way, about like quest markers? So, you know, you have the one end of the spectrum where you have like after every point in the quest, there's like an arrow pointing, like go here, press E or whatever. And then, you know, all throughout the quest until you completed it. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is, I guess, Morrowind's approach, where you have just a piece of text that says what you need to do next. And then you have to figure out how to get there, who to talk to, what to say, and so on, all the way until you complete it. So you sort of get no help. So what's your opinion on which one is better, or if there's a sweet spot somewhere?
I was thinking about Morrowind. I feel like the last one, or... well, at least the Fallout games have quest markers because they have a GPS, I suppose, on your pit boy. Yeah. But I don't like quest markers. I think it's quite useless. I mean, I think it defeats the purpose. If there's, especially in an open world game where I think the purpose is to explore, and yet all I do is just following a quest marker, I think that's completely pointless. Just in that case, just make a linear game if that's where I have to go. I think about like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 and so on back in the day when I didn't even understand English. It would say in red text, like go northwest, and northwest was highlighted in red, and I knew, okay, I will, look in a dictionary or whatever what that meant, and then I will go that direction and press on everything until I found it. Now, of course, that was back in the day, and I had all the time in the world to do that kind of stuff, so I wouldn't like to do that today, I guess, or if I played a Japanese game. But that's not the point. The point is I don't like the quest markers. I think that sort of defeats the purpose, and especially in exploring games. I do think, however, that sometimes I can't quite come up with an example right here and right now in terms of when where you're supposed to go is not clear enough. Now that's obviously something that it's like a balance thing, game design thing, but I can't think of any game right now where they tell you where to go and there's no quest markers where to go, but when they told you where to go, that was not clear enough, so I'm quite lost anyway, and then I would have to go online and figure out where I'm supposed to go. So that's obviously bad game design. But I do think that I prefer not to have any quest markers at all, but they sort of explain it well enough so you have to figure it out yourself, but it shouldn't be hard enough. That this is yet again something I tried to do in Sunset Moon, because there would be no quest markers, but it's a small island. So one thing I like about that is sort of like once you have played a game long enough, you should be able to know where everything is. So if someone would say like, oh, I really need this plant, I know it grows near, I don't know, the Green Echo store, and then you will know where that is because you played the game long enough to know where that is. And then you will go there and look for something, and then you will find it, and then you will hopefully feel that sort of achievement that you went there, you searched for it, you found it, no quest markers, and it sort of helps you. You're happy because you thought it out and you figured it out yourself. Those are the sort of like, I like that kind of stuff in games where you are being tricked into believing that you're a smart person, which you're not.
And I think I agree totally with that. And I tried to, like a while back, I played the new Harry Potter game, or I guess Wizarding World Hogwarts game. And I tried to do that thing there, where I thought, wouldn't it be cool to not look at the quest markers, and then just, if they say, oh, you gotta go to the common room, or you have to go to the dining hall or whatever, and then you just develop this sense of location where you are and then go from that. But it's totally not made for that, I can tell, because I really tried to find, but it's just such a big castles. There are no signs or anything that tells you like this way is where this is. So it's just loads of empty hallways and stuff. And then it's just made for, you have to fast travel to get anywhere. And it's, even if you are at the place, there's nothing indicating that this place is called whatever, the potion chamber or whatever. So I also like that, if possible, that you can figure it out yourself, and there's no map either, so you just develop a sense for where everything is in relation to each other. But as you said, I think there's when doing that, it's very important to sort of guide the player and tell them that, every piece of the way, for example, you don't have to have a quest marker, but you could have, after they have reached a certain step, like they are in the right part of the map or something, that you have a quest log or something where the main character thinks to themselves, for example, oh, now I reached this thing, so now I can continue do whatever, just nudge the character or the player along the way, I guess.
Yeah, I think I have regarding that, like I have in real life, like borderline savant skills when it comes to directions. It's insane. Sometimes I'm scared of myself for memorizing how to get places, even by looking at a map once. I look at a map, okay, now I know. It's freaky almost. It doesn't work when I'm underground, which is weird. So a part of me thinks that I'm sort of connected to some GPS in the sky. But when I play games, I think I mentioned in a previous episode with open world games, for example, Grand Theft Auto 3, the first island of that game. My brother and I, we didn't understand that we had to make quests in order to unlock the second island. I think I mentioned that we heard at school that if you got $1 million in the game, they will open the bridge to the next island. But we used to mess around on that one island forever. And man, I knew everything about that island because we were just there on that island. And I mentioned in that episode we talked about open world is in particular that by the time they become too big, not only do they feel more empty than ever, but it's just like the only way to sort of navigate them is through maps and quick travel system or these quest pointers that we are talking about now. And I really think that's a bummer. I prefer games to be smaller, and I would expect that Hogwarts Legacy is small enough for me to learn the layout of the castle, because I'm freaky when it comes to those things in terms of location and memorizing those things. But I am surprised to hear that there are no clear indications where to, like you would expect, because I also remember we had a guest on this show who talked about you need to implement recognizable object in the game for the player to know where it's going. And he asked me something about Sunset Moon, and I said, none of the buildings look the same, so everything looked different, which means that you will be able to, as a player, memorize a certain area of the game. And again, it's a small game, but you will quickly be able to memorize where this house is because it doesn't look like any other house, and so on. Can't remember which episode or what the topic at hand was back then. But in terms of Hogwarts Legacy, it would be quite simple for them to have like recognizable statues and I don't know, like the floor could be different in different areas, so you would always sort of memorize certain things. But the problem is that when we follow these pointers, we don't think where we're walking. And this is something I also notice when my wife is driving all the time here in Japan. When I'm sitting next to her, I'm just not thinking. So I wouldn't have any clue where we're going. And that's when my sort of savant skills are not working when I'm not driving myself. But when I'm driving, I have to think where I'm going. And then for some reason, I will never forget where that was or how, even like I said, I just look at the map once and I know how to get there. But when she's driving, it just doesn't work. And I think it's the same thing with games. When we just follow this quest line or these pointers, we're not thinking ourselves. And thus, we don't memorize anything. So it would, I think if there were no pointers in Hogwarts Legacy and you were sort of forced to memorize it yourself, maybe it would actually work. Or maybe there are actual sort of things in the game that are recognizable, but you don't think about them because you're just simply defaulting back to the map or the quick travel system.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think it's more fun to navigate the world by actually looking at where you are and then trying to find your way rather than just navigating quick travel menu. Just go here, press E to talk to this NPC, travel back, and then press E on the other NPC, and then quest completed.
No, that's awful. Yeah,
and it's sort of as the game becomes navigating menus instead of actually playing. But I just think about, like, I haven't seen the Hogwarts game in a while, so I don't know if they've updated it. But imagine, like, from a lore perspective, what the game would be like for the actual students. Like, how would they find their way? Well, the smart way to do it would just be at every floor, you would have a sign pointing to the staircase, which is like the center of the castle. And then in the staircase, you have a floor plan. On this floor, these things are. And then on the other floors, whatever. And then that way you could just find your way through all of it. And that wouldn't take that long to create.
And if you wanted to keep it more mystical in terms of Hogwarts Legacy, because you don't want to spoil what's on every floor as soon as you enter the castle, you could also implement this fucking spell where once you have explored a floor, it will actually show up on that board in the staircase. Like on this floor, you have these things, and that would also be a quite fun, unlockable thing to do for each floor. So it won't tell you exactly what's on this floor unless you have explored it once, and then interesting. Yeah, that's true. But speaking of that, one final point is that the Starfield game when I heard that it's a lot of quick travel in that, I'm just, no, I'm out. Like that sounds awful. I think we also talked about that on the previous episode. Like, as far as I can tell, there's like different planets and stuff like that. But it's just like, you have to quick travel between them and so on. I just wish they had just squeezed all of these planets into one planet and make you walk between them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think also that it's better to have like something like Resident Evil 1 where you have like, okay, you need to save this guy dying from the snake poison, so you have to run to where you remember that the herbs were, so then there's no map or anything, you just have to remember the rooms you were in, rather than having like Starfield. I don't know if it was Starfield, but I heard some sci-fi game at least, like, to do this quest there's 8 like loading screens to get through, so you have to like go to this space station. So instead of just going, it's like, okay, go here to fast travel to the ship, loading screen, and then just press launch on your ship, and then there's a cinematic and then a loading screen, then fast travel to this star system, loading screen, and then you repeat that until the space station, and then you have to get to inside the space station, and then you talk to the guy, and then you have to go back and do all those loading screens again to get back to the first place. So it's like, why even, either you should be able to go, or you should just fast travel from the one place all the way until, instead of, nobody wins from like these fucking loading screens.
No, it's totally. But I wonder. Yeah, I was thinking. I also don't like when you have to run back all the time, especially when it's far distance, or if you have to use loading screen to save time. I think it's a bit weird, but it would almost be cooler in that case, for example, to talk to that guy. That I don't know how the settings and all that were, but imagine there's this guy who he's dying, and then on the way back to your spaceship, you get in your spaceship, and then maybe for some reason the guy you gotta talk to, he's there for some reason. I mean, that would be a better solution than having to go through 8 loading scenes to get to him, and then he's there, and like, exactly. I don't know why he would be there. Like, maybe he crashed his plane next to yours, who saves you 8 loading scenes or whatever. But I don't like when you have to go back to the guy.
Yeah, I agree. But I agree. Like, having it end in a different place to when it started is also nice. And then you could have some twist, like he was stalking you the whole way, and actually you were gonna transport this thing to the government, but then the guy who gave you the quest actually stalked you and then tried to rob you and take it for himself, for example.
That would be a good twist, and way better. Yeah,
absolutely. So what do you say? Should we start wrapping it up? I think we're a bit over an hour. All right. So everyone, thank you so much for listening. Please, if you have any experiences of your own with Quest or anything that would be fun to bring up in a future episode, please let us know. Please send in a voicemail if you have something nice to say. And
if you want to be on the episode, please let us know. That would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing. So, that would be cool. Just let us know what you want to talk about, and we'll set something up. That would be really fun. Thank you again for listening. Thank you, Rune, for being my amazing co-host as always. And very nice. I've enjoyed this episode, so I hope you did as well. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week.